What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Pick Six podcast show here on CBS Sports HQ. Will Brinson, joined by John Breach, and now hopping on with us, Tyler Sullivan. Okay, Sully, what's up? How we doing, guys? All right, we're going to dive into the AFC East, and we're going to start, Breach, with the Buffalo Bills, who are the favorites to win the Super Bowl. The Buffalo Bills, who have never won a Super Bowl, are the favorites to win the Super Bowl, thanks to the play of Josh Allen, the coaching from Sean McDermott, and the roster building for Brandon Beane. Do you agree, Breach, and is this possibly their year?
I agree that they should be the favorites. I feel like on paper, they are the best team in the AFC. I actually picked them to go to the Super Bowl last season when they did not go to the Super Bowl. And you know what? Now I flipped because now I don't think they're going to go to the Super Bowl. Here's the problem is that I just think the AFC is way too loaded. I mean, we're talking about a team that didn't even make it to the conference title game last season. Forget the Super Bowl. They haven't been able to figure out the Chiefs. That's been kind of the bane of their existence. We don't know that they can beat Kansas City, and maybe the Chiefs losing Tyreek Hill will help them. But then it's not just the Chiefs. You have the Chargers, you have the Ravens, you have the Bengals, you have the Colts. The Titans were the number one seed in the AFC last year, for heaven's sake. So I just think it's too loaded, and things have to come together perfectly at the right time. I don't know if the Bengals were the best team in the AFC last season, but they made it to the Super Bowl, and I feel like that's something we're going to see again in 2022. It just seems like ever since we expanded to 14 teams, the favorite has a tough time sneaking into the Super Bowl, and the Bills are the favorite, so I don't think they're going to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but we're talking about a team that was 13 seconds away. It's not like they didn't make the AFC Championship just because they weren't playing that well. They were right there. They basically had it, and Patrick Mahomes just went nuclear in that divisional game there. So again, we're talking about a team that is unbelievably loaded in the Buffalo Bills. Last year, they were the number one team in DVOA defensively, and they go out this year and add Von Miller to that group. They're absolutely stacked on that side of the ball. Offensively, Josh Allen is a legit MVP candidate. I'm so fascinated to see what Gabe Davis is able to do next year after that breakout performance in that playoff game last year. And I think Jamison Crowder is probably one of the most underrated additions to an offense this offseason. He was money with the New York Jets, and we've seen over the course of history now, when you leave the New York Jets, you are extremely productive. He was already productive in New York. Now he goes to Buffalo with a quarterback like Josh Allen. That offense just got that much better.
Yeah, I think the Bills, like Breach said, probably should be the favorites. You know, when you look at this team, they're loaded, and they're going to be really good. I do have a couple of concerns, with just looking at some things from last year and then some of the transition. For instance, like, what happened against the Jaguars last year? What was that? You scored like 6 points against Jacksonville. Are we going to see any of those instances this season? And I thought R.J. White made a great point on the Pick Six podcast audio version live on YouTube, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern every single day for the rest of eternity on, I believe, Tuesday or Wednesday. And he pointed out that we're not talking enough about the offensive coordinator change in Buffalo. Like Brian Daboll, you can be fine with Ken Dorsey, and there's a very good chance that he's a great play caller and that Josh Allen won't be too impacted. But, I mean, Daboll was an elite-level offensive coordinator who allowed Josh Allen to really mature and develop into this, MVP candidate. So I think that is just something to watch if they come out slow. But certainly you look at, what they did with Kyrie Elam in the draft, and then Von Miller, Crowder, who I agree with Sully is an extremely underrated player, and then building some tight end depth with O.J. Howard. I mean, this is a really, really good football team that deserves to be the favorite. But, man, it's hard to win in the NFL even when you're supposed to. Sully, Bill Belichick, 20 years, winning, and then Tom Brady leaves, not so much winning. They still made the playoffs last year. We're probably too far down on them. How big is this season for Belichick, who is going into the year without any coordinators, something that has my antenna raised very high in the air?
Yeah, I think this is a huge year for Bill Belichick, the GM. The head coach, ironclad, there's nothing going to happen to him. I mean, I think they could literally lose every single game, and Robert Kraft still wouldn't move on from him. That's how rock solid he is as a head coach. But we are coming off an offseason now where if you look at Robert Kraft at the owners' meeting, he was very apparent and very upfront saying that, listen, we haven't won a playoff game in 4 years. The drafts outside of the 2021 draft haven't produced the talent that can really help you elevate to a playoff contender, to a Super Bowl contender. That's why they had to spend that boatload of money last offseason. There's some head-scratching moments in this draft. Cole Strange at number 29 overall is probably the biggest one that you kind of go, okay, a guard, first round, Chattanooga. I guess, sure, that's fine. You needed it because you traded away Shaq Mason, but there were certainly other needs there. The loss of J.C. Jackson, massive. You don't have a number one corner to replace him. The linebacker unit is extremely thin there. So if you're looking at it from a roster construction standpoint, and you end this season on a lackluster note like you did last year where you weren't even able to force a punt for the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs, Robert Kraft's going to take a hard look at how this team is evaluating talent. Not so much the head coach, but Bill Belichick, the GM, will certainly be on the hot seat at that point.
Yeah, it feels almost like Bill Belichick is trying to make things harder on himself. Oh, I'm such a great coach. I'm going to give myself a not-so-great roster and see if I can win with it, just so I can have more challenges after winning 6 Super Bowls. Because it legitimately is starting to feel like that with all the questionable calls that they've been making in the front office, which Belichick is in charge of, as Tyler mentioned. And it is weird to hear Robert Kraft, who has enjoyed having 6 Super Bowl rings because Belichick was the coach of his team. But Robert Kraft has come out in the last couple years, not just this offseason, but offseason before that, just kind of subtly calling out Belichick and his drafting ability and what they've been doing in the offseason. And so you have to think that maybe Belichick takes that kind of personally, and you have to think that he needs to prove that A, he can win without Brady, and B, he can construct these rosters and saying, look, I knew what I was doing the whole time. We can still win playoff games, compete for division titles, and win Super Bowls. But I'm not sure they can. The way this roster is constructed, I'm not sure that it is a top 10 roster in the AFC, and you need to be top 7 to get to the playoffs.
It's a hot take there. Actually, I don't know that you do have to be a top 7 roster to get to the playoffs with the way that the AFC West is structured, but I digress. Yeah, I mean, look, this is a huge year for the Pats. They, like Tom Brady winning a Super Bowl the second he left New England, it just makes it a tough scene for Belichick. Mac Jones, if he takes a leap forward and looks like the future franchise quarterback, that will benefit them a lot, obviously. But not having those coordinators and maybe turning Mac Jones over to Matt Patricia and Joe Judge and doing it very quietly, again, a bit of a red flag there for old Billy B. But he's still the GOAT, and I'm sure that Bob Kraft will give him plenty of wiggle room. The 2 teams that continue to stink in the division, although the Dolphins have been better the last few years, but they just fired their coach. The Dolphins or the Jets. If you had to pick one for each, who has a better chance of being good based on their for the long haul? Like whose roster is in the best shape moving forward? Jets or Dolphins?
The Jets have done a lot of work over the past year, but I am going to say the Dolphins. Look, the Jets are starting from rock bottom. This is like asking who's going to win a race, a 100-meter race between me and you, Brenton, and I have an 80-meter head start. I would think I'm going to win. It just feels like the Dolphins have a huge head start here. This is a team that went 9-8 last season. Even though they started 1-7, they were on the cusp of the playoffs. They only finished out of first place by 2 games. And so it feels like the one thing they need is a quarterback. Is Tua that quarterback? I'm not sure yet, but maybe he can take a few small steps forward. And if he doesn't, then you can get rid of him after this year. And I don't know, maybe go out and sign Tom Brady, who's going to be a free agent. But you have, I like the Dolphins roster the way it's built. I think the Jets are definitely going to get better. They went 4-13 last year. Even if they improve by 3 or 4 games, that's still under 500. So it's going to be tough for them to have a total turnaround and get to 11 or 12 wins. And Zach Wilson, we have no idea if he is going to pan out. And so if Zach Wilson continues to struggle, it's going to be tough for the Jets to turn things around. So I would say right now, if I had to pick a team that is built to succeed out of those 2 over the next 5 years, I'd go with the Dolphins.
Yeah, outside of the Dolphins, and getting Tom Brady next year, I'm going to go with the New York Jets. I like what they're building over the long term. Again, next year, the couple years after that, the Dolphins could probably be a little bit more in contention. But I think a lot of the credit that we've been giving them over the last few years was a testament to Brian Flores and his acumen as a head coach. We don't really know what Mike McDaniel is going to be. And I'm not saying we know what Robert Saleh is definitively yet as he goes into year 2, but I'm a little bit more confident in him, and I like the overall roster construction that GM Joe Douglas is doing in New York. I mean, that draft was flawless in my opinion. They were able to come away with, I think what they had was, 3 players that were all in the top 10 in their draft board. It's just an absolutely ridiculous haul when you look at it from that standpoint. Obviously, they got the running back there in the second round as well. But overall, it centers around Zach Wilson and whether or not he is able to make that jump. Because right now, they remind me of the Buffalo Bills when they were kind of constructing their roster when they just got Josh Allen. If we see anything close to that type of a leap from Zach Wilson, it is look out Patriots, it's look out Dolphins for that second place spot in the AFC East.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the Jets too, although it's pretty close. Like, I think the Dolphins as a whole, I trust more, but and I say this at the risk of massive blowback from the cult that is Tuanon, but I just think that Zach Wilson has a better chance of taking some big leap. And you're talking about, like, I love Mike McDaniel, but you're talking about relatively negligible differences in terms of the coaching staffs. Both come from the Kyle Shanahan tree. The other thing about the Dolphins too, let's not forget, we got to see what happens with Stephen Ross and ownership down there in Miami once the NFL handles this investigation of that whole Brian Flores thing, because there's a potential for a lot of turnover and chaos down there in South Florida if it ends up going poorly for Ross and those involved there. All right, give me your best bet, best value pick, you just want to pick the team you think is going to win the AFC East, Breach.
Well, hold on, because my best value bet and the team I think are going to win are 2 different teams, Brenton. So you know what? I'm going to tell you the team I think is going to win is the Bills, but I think my best value bet is the Dolphins, and that's because they are 4-1. Look, this is a team that was on the cusp of being really good last year if they didn't get off to that horrible start. They ended up finishing 9-8 after that nice rebound. And that was only 2 games off of what the Bills did. And if you're talking about 4-1, this team added Tyreek Hill. If Tua can take just a small step forward and take advantage of having offensive players like that in his system, there's no reason the Dolphins can't win this division. And let's not forget, they have Mike McDaniel as their head coach now. I think that's going to help Tua because you have an offensive-minded head coach and somebody who's going to be able to work with the quarterback a lot more closely. So if I am going for a value pick, it is the Miami Dolphins.
I think we got to get a little careful here when we talk about value. Yes, things can happen where a team ascends, but sometimes there's a slam dunk. And at minus 180, I still view the Buffalo Bills as a slam dunk value play to win this division. I mean, I look at the AFC East more like the NFC South, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers being the elite team, and then there's the rest of that bunch, than say the AFC West, where it's a gauntlet. You don't know who's going to come out of it because everybody's so competitive. For me, there is a clear teardrop after Buffalo here, and it really, if you just look at the quarterbacks, Josh Allen, Mac Jones, Tua Tagovailoa, and Zach Wilson, one of those is elite. The other 3, we have to wait and see how they develop. I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills minus 180. I still think that that's great money.
Yeah, I think the Bills are going to win the division. I think it is pretty decent money. You could also, if you can find somewhere, you can't do this on Caesars, but parlay the Bills, Packers, and Buccaneers. You're probably going to get those 3 division winners. I will say the Patriots at 4-1. I think present value. You're talking about Belichick as a plus 400 for Bill Belichick to win the AFC East. I mean, I'll take that gamble all day long. Although I do think the Bills are your winner. All right, coming up next, some AFC South talk here on the Pick Six Podcast Show on CBS Sports HQ.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.